It's not very often you get to sit this close to a living legend. Would you say hi to Mr. Scotty Moore? How are you, Scotty?
Thank you, I think.
You think?
I don't know. We haven't started yet.
Well, you're looking good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been last time we really met, we made that DVD in London.
Right.
At Abbey Road, which was a real wonderful tribute to you.
Yes, it was. And I'm trying to, what month, how long ago has it been?
It was 2004. December 5th, 2004.
Right,
we did. But let's just remind ourselves of the guitar players that were on that, because Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones, who I work with quite often,
right.
He invited me to play that. There was Eric Clapton, there was Dave Gilmour, Mark Knopfler,
right.
Ronnie Wood, there was Albert Lee.
Albert Lee, that's what I was trying to think
Albert
of.
Lee, yeah. And it was just a wonderful moment, and
it was a good show. Really
and
was.
you played, and that was quite a highlight for me.
It
was when we
probably the last time I even attempted to play. Probably
was it.
Yeah.
But it was great hearing you play that classic introduction to the tune, and then I took it off in a kind of a jazz direction.
Who knows where it went?
Yeah. Hey, you're not supposed to know what it is. It's jazz, you know.
That's right.
So, what the students here would be, I know, would be very interested to hear from you is, because I'm always interested to know whenever I talk to guitar players, how did it all start for you? You know, what was the beginning for you? What drew you to music, and what drew you to the guitar in particular?
Mine was probably just pure hard-headedness, because I had 3 brothers, and my dad, they all had a band when they were all at home. But by the time I came along, it was my dad was gotten too old, and all 3 brothers had gotten married and left home.
So you were the youngest.
I was
you
the
were
youngest,
baby.
but I kept
baby.
hearing stories, of course.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where it basically came from. Till I went in the Navy.
Is that where the playing really started?
Yeah. Was on a LST.
So that would have been about 1947.
Yeah, that's about right.
In the Navy, and so you had a lot of opportunities to play at that time, did you? With the Navy band.
The LST, which is a small ship, landing craft, whatever you call it, and it's not that big a crew on there either, and so there was quite a bit of downtime. And all you had to do was figure out some way to stay away from the captain and everybody else, you know.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started playing.
Yeah. So when you came out of the Navy, then you pursued a career in music straight away, did you? From
in the back of my mind, really. I had to, first of all, I just had to make a living doing anything I could. I didn't know what I wanted to do, to tell you the truth.
And what were they? What kind of work did you? What kind of dates did you play? Was it you playing like dances and?
Played a few dances. Mostly just stayed home and playing records and stuff like that.
So you learned really from playing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
trying to figure it out. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty recent now when you think. First of all, it's like this big revolution happened when videos came out, and you could get a teaching video, and you make. I know you were involved in that too, and making videos, but that was a kind of a one-way. It was always frustrating for the student because the teacher on the video was kind of giving information and playing, but they weren't able really to ask any questions and get that feedback. That's why we're living in a very, very exciting time now where we can actually have this interaction, like on here. All the students can send me videos and I can respond to them. So we have we build up a relationship, and it seems to speed up the teaching, the learning process.
Yes, it does.
Because it took me about 10 years before I could really kind of figured out what was going on with the guitar. Did you find that was it a long process?
I stayed with it about 40 years, and then I just quit it because I couldn't figure it out.
So now I've got to ask you.
Why do you think I'm sitting here talking to you?
I remember you said to me once. I think the first time I met you, I played, and you came up to me and you said, where were you in 1956 when I needed you? I always tell people that. And actually, 1956, I was just being born. So now I've got to ask you, of course, what was the first connection with Elvis? I mean, I don't really have to ask you because it's pretty much in the history books.
Well, we got this group together, and then we had 2-3 different places in town we were playing like every Saturday night, you know.
Mm.
And then I had this thought. I said, okay, I got a group, everything. We had to dress alike and everything. It was a country, I mean,
Sure, yeah.
a group. And
we've all seen great photographs of you.
have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. With a hat on the back of my head, right?
Yeah, very, very cool. Like Alan Ladd, you know. Always like Alan Ladd, who always used to wear his hat on the back of his
Yeah.
head. It was a kind of a nonchalant type of thing.
But then I had the thought. I said, well, I need to get a record out. So I found out that I heard about Sun Records, that they had put out some records and stuff. So that was my next chore. So I went in and met him, and Sam Phillips was his name, and he was a great one to, if he could get anything done for free, he was right on top of it, I mean, immediately.
He wasn't Scottish, was he?
He might have been. I hadn't thought about it. Really. And he asked one day, he said, says his boy's been coming in here and bothering, we were having coffee. He said, this boy's been coming in and talking to Marion, his secretary, about doing records and everything. He said, she's actually put him on tape doing some stuff. I still hadn't heard him, see. And,
This is Elvis.
And he turned to Marion and said, next door to the studio. He asked Marion, said, go get that boy's, still didn't call his name, you know, and said, get that boy's telephone number and give it to Scotty. And she came back in and handed me the paper, and I looked at it and I said, Elvis Presley, what kind of dadgum name is that? You know, that was my first thing out of my mouth.
It'll never catch on. It'll never go anywhere.
Yeah, really.
What was your first impression?
Well, he was a nice-looking kid. He was, you know, and the stuff he was singing it good. It was nothing that I hadn't before. I mean, as far as any tonality or anything, you know, like that. I mean, he didn't have a. What do they say about the guys? He's got a
Charisma. Yeah,
charisma. Yeah, he didn't have anything exciting.
He had
popped out
something
at
about
him,
him.
right?
Yeah.
And in fact, Bill came down and sat around for a few minutes and listened to him. He didn't even pick up his bass; just sit there and listen. And I told him, I said, "Well, I'll call Mr. Phillips and he's tell him about you and so forth, and he'll probably be calling you to come in and do an audition or something." And which I did, and we went in on Monday, and it's still just an audition, and we was in there probably, I'm gonna say 4 or 5 hours with him just singing different things, all slow ballad type things. Well, Sam didn't have a talkback from the studio. I'm from the control room. And if there was anything he had to say, he'd have to leave the door cracked open a little bit where he could holler through the door at us. And Bill was laying, which he had a big habit of, he'd lay his bass down and then lay down on top of it.
Oh yeah,
He's really a big bull bass, you know.
Yeah.
And we was ready. It was getting late. It was about 9:30 or something like that. And we was tired. We was ready to go. And Elvis just all of a sudden had a guitar, just walked over and just started just beating the fretted and singing "That's All Right." And I hadn't even thought about playing it or anything yet. I think Bill picked up and started slapping his bass a little bit with him or something, and Sam heard it and came out, hollered and said, "Hey, that sounds pretty good." Said, "What are y'all doing?" Now this is the first up-tempo thing we'd done all the time we'd been in there. And he said, of course I didn't know, none of us knew that song was actually in Sam's Publishing Company to begin with.
Oh, I see.
And we still don't know to this day if Elvis picked that song to try to impress Sam that he had heard it, stuff he had been putting out, or
Do you think Elvis knew? Did he?
I think he must
you
have.
think- yeah.
Yeah, but he never mentioned it.
Yeah.
And so we looked at each other and said, "Oh, what are we doing?" He said, "Oh, just run through it and do the best you can, whatever. Just get something on tape." He's mainly interested in his voice at that time. And so you've heard what happened.
Sure.
That was it.
Music
That was
history.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Sam, he said, "Oh, that's great," and everything. He said, "Fine, we'll have to have a backside for that or something." And we went home. That was the start of it.
Wow.